because everybody told me different things. You know, some people were, you know, strongly for federalization, some people were strongly against federalization, some people were in the middle, different people had different considerations. So we consulted with as many people as we could. And then, you know, we tried to put it all, you know, together to do our best to reflect what we thought sort of, you know, the balance of interests were, and we also have to pay attention to the interest of the federal government. So when we drafted the bill, we were given the marching orders. They said, start with that bill in 2001. So we did that. And then update it to include all the points that you said in your testimony. Oh, one of the things we also said in our testimony, the one I forgot, is we have to protect the rights of the guest workers as well as the locals. See, because we think that the status quo has not served the locals and has not served the guest workers. You know, we have an economy here where almost the entire private sector is with people from outside who are willing to work for low wages, and that makes them exploitable. And it also means that there are not enough opportunities in the private sector for local U.S. citizens. So we don't think that serves anyone's interests very well. So that was one of the things we said, you know, we have to look at. So anyway, we drafted the bill. Now, here's a technical point which I think is important. At least it's important in the process. When we drafted that bill, we didn't endorse it. It's something called a drafting service. And, you know, I don't want to bore you guys with the details of, you know, the process in Washington, but, you know, sometimes the Senate says, look, we're concerned about this issue, and we want you to draft a bill that does the following things. And we as an administration will say, okay, we'll draft that for you because we have the knowledge to draft it. But when we give you the draft, we're not endorsing it. We're just giving it to you. We're just giving this to you as a service, you know? So that's what we did, right? We drafted the bill. We gave it to them. We did not endorse it. So when we gave it to them, the Senate said, thank you very much. Then they held a hearing. And they said, okay, you drafted this bill. Now tell us, do you endorse the bill? So then, at that point, I had to go around, you know, with all my colleagues in the administration, you know, Homeland Security, the White House, State, Health, Labor. By the way, I did that when we were drafting the bill, but unofficially, because we weren't endorsing it. Then we had to go back officially and say, do we, the Bush administration, endorse this bill? And then we all consulted, and the answer was yes. We endorse it. However, there were a couple of exceptions. We offered about 5 technical suggestions to improve the bill, and we, on the provision of, you know, status for the long-term guest workers, the Bush administration was not able to come to agreement that we should support that or oppose it. The sentiment was from the White House that we have to wait and see what happens with national immigration reform, because we're talking about, you know, 12 million illegal workers in the U.S. We don't want to do something that's inconsistent, even though we're talking about legal guest workers here. So they said, let's just, you know, hold off on that. You know, don't delete it, don't add it, just hold off on that. And we offered other points. So then I announced on behalf of the administration our support for federalization and our support for the bill, subject to, you know, the improvements that I just said. Another point I want to quickly make is, you know, the position is the position of the administration. It's, you know, it's not me personally. Obviously, I'm very heavily involved in, you know, formulating the position, but, you know, it's the position of the administration. And, you know, people don't automatically, you know, follow what I say. I wish they would. You know, my life would be so much easier if people would automatically follow what I say. But unfortunately, you know, people have minds of their own. People from Homeland Security have their points of view. People from the State Department have their points of view. And so the position is the position of the administration. And, you know, as flattering as it is to hear my name mentioned 800 million times as like it's my position and I'm doing this personally, you know, acting as a, you know, on my own, that's not the case. Every time I testify, my statement is cleared by the administration. When we take a position in support or against a bill, it's the entire administration, cleared throughout the entire administration. So that's an important thing to remember. So in any event, so I testified on behalf of the administration, said we support this bill, but we suggest making the following improvements. Then the Senate turned around and said, well, okay, you've suggested making improvements, now give us another drafting service and show us in legislative language what the bill would look like, you know, if you made those improvements. So that was our second drafting service. So we're just, again, and we provide the second drafting service again. We're not endorsing the changes, we just providing the service that Congress asked for. So most of the changes we asked for were technical. Homeland Security was the agency that asked for those changes, so we basically asked Homeland Security to draft those changes for us, and they did. And, you know, the grandfathering provision is still in there, and, you know, we weren't asked to do anything with that. So, you know, there's no significance one way or the other to the fact that, you know, that provision's still in there, because we weren't asked to do anything with that. You know, so we were just given a homework assignment, and we did it. So that's our position. Now, very briefly, I'll point out why the administration supports federalization, and then make another quick point or two, but then I want to start hearing, you know, what all of you have to say and answer any questions that you have. Why do we support federalization? Or let me say, why do we still support federalization? Because we announced in 2001 that we strongly support federalization. Well, when we looked at the issue again, when we were asked to by Congress in 2006 and 2007, this is what we found. We found that the CNMI had made tremendous progress on a lot of fronts. And my office has always been the first to stand up and say that the CNMI has made tremendous progress. You know, back in 2003, when we asked the CNMI to adopt a human trafficking statute, they did. When we asked them to establish an asylum system, they did. When we asked them to cooperate on, you know, correcting worker abuses, they did their best, you know, subject to resources. So, and also, you know, the garment industry was the one that had, you know, the most problems before. Well, there was a big settlement. You had a garment oversight board, and they substantially cleaned up conditions in the garment industry. So the source of all the problems in the past, you know, had substantially been cleaned up. So there was a lot of good news, and we reported that. However, we still had some concerns. We found that even though there had been tremendous improvements, and we gave the CNMI a lot of credit for making those improvements, I should say the CNMI government, you know, a lot of credit for making those improvements, we still had areas of concern.